There is a signature to strip Jon Jones.
I saw that. Did you sign it?
That's over 70,000.
You signed it, didn't you?
I did.
I'm gonna search the database.
I didn't search it.
I'm gonna find your email on there.
But dude, that's 70,000 signatures.
Chaos unfolds as Jon Jones risks being stripped of his title, igniting debate over whether his legacy might fade without one last fight.
Great, get off.
Sorry, it's a Jones thing, Tom.
The UFC heavyweight landscape may be on the verge of a major shift as frustration among fans grows over Jon Jones's continued absence. What began as quiet discontent has surged into a full-blown campaign, with over 158,000 fans signing a petition urging the UFC to strip Jones of the title and crown Tom Aspinall as the undisputed champion. Aspinall didn't stay silent either. He added fuel to the fire by reposting the petition on his Instagram story, echoing a rising belief that the division can't wait any longer.
What about this? There are people who have started a petition to strip Jon Jones. We're now at 115,135 as of maybe an hour or two ago when we took the screen grab. Jon does also bring up a good point. If Jon told the UFC like 2 months ago, hey, I'm not interested, it's no longer on him.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? So like, you remember one time I sat here and I said the UFC is not to blame? And I said that because they met the number. But now if he tells them, hey, I'm not interested, all right, you could say, well, you're to blame because maybe you told them, hey, if you meet this number, I'm fighting. And then you could say, all right, UFC is now back to blame because he told them 2 months ago, you know, I'm out. Why didn't you give Tom Aspinall a fight? There's this whole thing. Now, I heard Dana White say recently, like, look, we got to give these guys 3 fights a year. Remember we talked about this yesterday to a degree? Yeah. And it's like, all right, I guess they can come out and say, look, we could have given Tom an interim fight, but he told us he didn't want that. So that's considered turning it down. The whole thing is messy. There is no black and white sort of breakdown of it all. But the point is, I think the world has spoken. Look at that.
Tom Aspinall has held the interim heavyweight title for an astonishing 18 months, and the lack of progression in his career has only grown more frustrating. Despite Aspinall's position, Jon Jones chose to prioritize a fight with Stipe Miocic upon his return in November 2024, leaving the interim champ sidelined and uncertain about his future. Since then, the UFC has provided no official roadmap, no scheduled unification bout, no timeline, and no definitive answers. Jones, speaking from Thailand on a recent podcast, kept things ambiguous regarding his return. He suggested that while he still respects the world of martial arts, active competition may no longer be his priority. For a fighter once known for his laser focus and dominance inside the cage, this new detached perspective came as a shock to many fans. Jones even floated the idea of participating in exhibition matches or possibly walking away entirely, further deepening the uncertainty around the division.
Tom Aspinall said that he's getting frustrated waiting. He said it's very difficult mentally on him, but he said that this right here, this waiting, is the fight for him. On Jon Jones to set the date, stay motivated. It's a tricky bit for him to stay motivated, and he's trying his best, but at times it gets very difficult knowing that he wants to fight, but he's not getting the fight right now, especially.
In the meantime, Tom Aspinall hasn't stayed quiet about his intentions. He's openly called for a title unification bout and has already taken out nearly every top 5 contender, except for Cyril Gane, who currently holds the number 2 spot in the rankings. The Manchester-born heavyweight has done everything asked of him, defending his interim belt and proving himself against elite competition. Still, he remains stuck in limbo, with no confirmation of whether he'll get the opportunity to unify the title, or if the division will finally be allowed to move on, regardless of Jon Jones's next move.
In my opinion, if you look at his body of work over the last 15 years, he's like as close as you can get to perfection as possible. He's like 37, 38 years old, but not only that, he's got 1 million miles on the clock. So he's got a lot of damage on the body. He's took a lot of shots to the head. And that's not me saying anything negative about it. That's the reality of it. And I'm sure Jon Jones is aware of that. And he's fighting one of the most concussive punchers in UFC history. And I just think I can exploit it. Like, I think to get out the way of me for 25 minutes at this point in his career without getting hit once, and that's all I need is just one. I think that's going to be very difficult for anybody.
The debate around the Jon Jones-Tom Aspinall situation continues to stir strong opinions. Former two-division UFC champ and longtime Jones rival Daniel Cormier recently shared a nuanced take. He expressed skepticism that Jones would walk away without facing Aspinall, suggesting that Jon's competitive nature and pride wouldn't let him ignore such a high-profile challenge. According to Cormier, Jones has always cared about how the public views him and would likely accept the fight to quiet the critics. Still, even Cormier admitted what many in the MMA world are starting to consider. Aspinall might be the toughest test Jones has ever faced.
Now he's looking down at a young man, and it's like, he's not scared. Make no mistake about it. But I think it's enough to like question it. And you know what I think a big worry might be for him? Because with Aspinall, he could potentially get knocked out. Like legitimately knocked out and put on his back and out cold. And I just don't know that he wants to have that visual of him in the world.
Yeah, I mean that's that's probably, you probably nailed it right on the head right there.
Cormier wasn't the only one doubting Jones's next move. He speculated that Jones's hesitation might stem less from fear of Aspinall as a fighter and more from concern about what could happen inside the cage. Jones has crafted a legendary career in the UFC, becoming the youngest champion at 23, remaining unbeaten in his last 20 fights, and earning a spot among the sport's all-time greats. Cormier suggested that Jones's real worry might be the possibility of being knocked out, a fate he has skillfully avoided over his 17-year tenure. Unlike many fighters, Jones has never been finished or rendered unconscious during a fight, and the idea of becoming someone else's highlight reel could be a major factor behind his silence.
Do you think he's ducking, Tom?
No.
Do you think that fight happens?
100%. And it will happen this year. I believe I could go a little further and tell you this.
I think I could as well.
In New York.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Well, we went there.
Yeah.
So going from Craig and Tom to my third favorite athlete to bring up to you, Dan.
Can we stay on that for just a second?
Please.
I never miss an opportunity to be my usual dick of a self towards Jon.
That's what I was aiming for, really.
Yeah, I just don't feel that's happening here. I don't believe. Let me just give you a timeline. Jon beats Stipe, Aspinall's in the ring. The only thing we know about interim champion, because I mean, we will change the rules as we go in this sport, we're well aware, but one thing that we know about interim champion is the interim champion is the number one contender. The interim champion will compete with the undisputed champion. If for some reason that doesn't happen, they switch chairs. You are now the undisputed champion. I mean, that is why this works. That's why there's no conversation.
Jones' recent comments on a podcast seem to mirror these thoughts. He opened up about how deeply connected he is to winning, revealing that the prospect of losing would leave him emotionally shattered and depressed. He mentioned that without the champion's belt, he couldn't see himself truly enjoying the sport anymore. This candid admission has led many to think that Jones' reluctance to commit to a fight with Aspinall might be less about scheduling or negotiations and more about guarding his legacy. Aspinall, young and powerful at the height of his abilities, represents a serious challenge that could potentially disrupt nearly 20 years of Jones's dominance.
Could we expect one more rodeo?
I don't know what life holds as far as fighting, competing. I do feel like I'll be a lifelong martial artist, whether I'm coaching others or taking exhibition matches or things like that. There's a lot of great competition still in the UFC. I do view myself as more than a fighter, and being in my position, I feel like I have a lot more options than a lot of the other fighters as far as the ability to leave and return and things like that. And so right now, I'm just focusing on love, happiness, kindness.
Meanwhile, Dana White continues to express confidence that the UFC is fully committed to making the Jones versus Aspinall matchup a reality in 2025. However, as months slip by without any official announcement, faith in that promise is beginning to wane among fans and insiders alike. Veteran fighter Gilbert Burns echoes White's hopeful outlook, convinced that the fight will eventually take place. Burns believes that even if Jones were to come up short, his legacy would remain largely unaffected given all he has already accomplished. With a significant payday on the line, Burns sees the risk as worthwhile. He also suggested that if Jones did lose, there would likely be mitigating factors, like his age, a lengthy break from competition, or simply no longer being at his peak, that fans would accept without diminishing Jones's standing as a dominant champion during his prime years.
The biggest debate and the most controversial thing in the UFC right now, should Jon Jones be stripped of his heavyweight belt. Do you feel that this whole thing is just a ploy and they're actually negotiating behind the scenes?
I think so.
You do think so? Because I do too, but like it's gotten so crazy that now you start to have some doubts. Like, is he kind of just throwing this and taunting the fans and the UFC, or is this just a negotiation tactic and they're actually having serious conversations behind the scenes?
I agree. I do believe it's negotiations going on. They get that food. That food is boiling. People, and eventually Jon Jones, yes, I'm fighting, and then people, everybody's going to turn in.
Bro, if that happens, it's going to be. I think it's got to be December. You got to end the year with this fight.
I think it's November. I think it's New York.
Either way,
I think it's New York. I just think.
I mean, it's getting.
Jon Jones has a lot to lose, right? But let's just think, Jon Jones lost. Let's just think that fight happened. Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall wins, and he's a close fight, and people think too. I don't think it's that easy.
Right.
But let's presume that Tom Aspinall wins.
However, Chael Sonnen argues that the prime moment for this fight to be a blockbuster has already passed. Once touted as one of the most anticipated heavyweight title bouts in UFC history, public excitement now seems to be fading rapidly. Sonnen, a seasoned analyst and veteran of the UFC scene, shared that even his YouTube videos covering the potential Jones versus Aspinall clash struggle to gain views or engagement. In his view, the hype surrounding this matchup has steadily declined instead of building momentum, an unusual and concerning sign in the world of MMA.
About some storylines that are going on right now. We're about to enter the big summer month of June, International Fight Week, 2 pay-per-views for the UFC, but all anyone can seemingly talk about is the heavyweight division and the absolute mess that's going on. I'm almost tired of it. There's not much more that needs to be said. There's a petition out there with 75,000 plus people asking for Jon Jones to be stripped. Tom Aspinall's teasing some sort of announcement for Wednesday, but says it's not going to be a fight, and then made a joke that they're giving him an interim BMF title fight in the heavyweight division. Like, he's clearly just joking around, but I don't know. This is exhausting. Are you tired of this? Are you exhausted of this as well?
I am not. We saw Jon Jones sit on his ass for 3 years where he could have come out and fought. And there were 3 years when, he's taking creatine and doing pull-ups and trying to gain some weight. But the rest of us that had fought him and even observed, he said, hey, Jon, you don't need to gain weight. You can go right now. I think he weighed like 228 when this experiment started. He got all the way to 236, but he burned 3 years. 3 years at 3 fights a year, which is the average. I mean, we got robbed of 9 or 10 Jon Jones fights, which even if realistically was 5 or 6, 5 or 6 more experiences with the greatest mixed martial artists ever do. Like, we're going to really want that someday. We're going to want those tapes.
Sonnen proposed that fans might be losing enthusiasm because they're unsure if the fight will actually take place. Unlike previous high-profile bouts where prolonged negotiations only heightened anticipation, the extended quiet surrounding this matchup has instead fostered indifference. He pointed out that Jones's ongoing silence has effectively worked against promoting the fight, and unless there's a significant shift soon, Sonnen doubts the matchup can recapture the buzz it once had.
I am annoyed, and maybe even to the point of a little disappointed. One thing about this sport, as you well know, we fiercely adhere to the rules that we make up as we go. However, there is something known as precedence. When it was never explained to us what an interim championship was, we all did at least see, by the way they were treated, at a minimum, an interim championship makes you the number 1 contender. The interim champion will not fight in the presence of the undisputed champion. If the undisputed champion is back, by laws of the dictionary, you cannot have an interim champion in the existence of an undisputed champion. You may not have an undisputed champion.
The frustration extends beyond Sonnen's commentary. Many fans who once eagerly anticipated a monumental showdown between Jones and Aspinall now feel let down. Aspinall's patience is running out, and the uncertainty surrounding Jones's intentions is impacting the entire heavyweight division. If Jones remains evasive and the UFC fails to step in, the division risks stagnation for the foreseeable future. This growing unrest is what propelled the petition to gain momentum so quickly. It's not just about loyalty to Aspinall or dissatisfaction with Jones. It's about keeping the division active and ensuring top contenders get their rightful opportunity. Despite Aspinall's consistent efforts and accomplishments, there's still no clear direction. Without action from Jones, Calls to strip him of the title are becoming increasingly justified among MMA fans.
He's not gonna damage his legacy that much.
But if he gets knocked out cold in the first round, what do you think?
Yeah, the people are gonna say, "Oh, he's still old." Jon Jones on his prime would kill these guys.
It just sucks to go out that way when he's been flawless, you know.
Yeah,
that's the thing. But at the end of the day, if the check is big enough, does he really care?
Big enough. The check will be
too.
Will be big enough. And then I'm telling you guys right now, that fight's happening.
Really?
Yes, this
You're
fight's
that
happening.
sure?
I'm that sure.
So if you had to bet on it, if you had the place,
I'm not betting, but this fight, I really believe, I strongly believe that fight's happening, and especially all of that petition, bro. That petition, who made that petition, bro? It's freaking Dana White making that petition, so everyone's talking about it.
Although Gilbert Burns remains confident the fight will eventually happen, and Daniel Cormier believes Jones's pride will push him back into the octagon, time is running out. Fans' interest is starting to fade, and the UFC is beginning to explore other contenders like Cyril Gah and Sergey Pavlovich. What was once expected to be a legendary matchup now risks fading away completely. Even Paddy Pimblett, despite being a close friend of Aspinall and sharing national pride, stopped short of fully backing Aspinall over Jones. While he acknowledged Aspinall's impressive growth and skills, Pimblett gave the edge to Jones, highlighting his proven ability to adapt mid-fight and evolve under pressure, qualities that keep him nearly unbeatable.
Do you think the Aspinall-Jones fight happens?
It's got to happen. I was sitting next to Tom the other week at the UFC in London and talking to him about it.
How do you think that plays out if they fight?
I'll be honest, Tom's a friend. I love Tom. He's one of the coolest dudes in the whole of MMA. Even though Jones is getting old, I just can't pick against Jon Jones. The one thing I do think Jon Jones has got the best in the world and the best ever is his fight IQ. He has a perfect game plan to beat that person. As much as I love Tom and I want Tom to win, I couldn't pick against Jon Jones. It's just something I couldn't do.
Elsewhere, Marcin Tybur took a different perspective on the prolonged delay. Instead of seeing the lack of an official announcement as a missed chance, he viewed it as a deliberate strategy. To Tybur, the extended buildup isn't a problem, but an advantage. He proposed that both teams might be using this waiting period strategically to increase anticipation, strengthen their negotiating positions, and raise the fight's profile by creating suspense around the matchup.
It's crazy to think what this guy is capable of and how quick that was, and where is the roof? That's the only question. Who can stop him right now? I cannot tell. I know, Jon Jones in his prime time maybe, but now he's might be a little bit older than, the skills might be not there. So I don't know. It's crazy where he's going.
Cain Velasquez, once regarded as one of the most dominant champions in the division, recognized Aspinall's impressive climb, but expressed some doubts about his odds against a strategist. Like Jones, he pointed out that while Aspinall packs a punch, his striking can occasionally become predictable. On the other hand, Jones excels at identifying patterns and breaking them down. Velasquez felt Jones would treat Aspinall like a complex puzzle, relying on his sharp intellect and careful game plan to exploit weaknesses and maintain the upper hand throughout the fight.
What do you think of Tom?
Great, obviously, champion of the world, amazing, he's beaten some tough guys to get there.
You think he beats Jon Jones?
No, I don't think he does.
Why not?
So me just watching him, I kind of see his pattern a little bit and his striking, the way he comes in and strikes. And I think Jon sees it too. Jon's a studies man. He does his homework. He's a master at this. He's gonna know what to do. So I don't think he beats Jon. No. The simple fact is the way Tom he does have a pattern that's somewhat easier to find when he comes in and strikes. And I think you know what we're talking about. A lot of things come with that. It's disguising your pattern. It's throwing fakes here and there before. But when he comes to attacks, he comes in and attacks. It's 100% full go. He comes in, glides in, lunges in, and does his attack. Again, not that it's not effective. It is. He's done great things with it. The type of guy that Jon Jones is, I think he studies them and he beats them because of it.
From a tactical perspective, Arman Sarukian broke down the potential fight by focusing on spacing and distance management. He highlighted Jones's remarkable reach and skill in controlling the octagon as crucial factors that could limit Aspinall's explosive style. Sarukian imagined Jones using patience to dodge direct confrontations, carefully choosing when to strike, and frustrating Aspinall by denying him chances to fully unleash his power, turning Aspinall's aggression into wasted efforts.
Who do you see as the #1 pound-for-pound guy in the UFC right now? Is it Makhachev? Is it somebody else?
Of course, it's a Jon Jones.
Jon Jones.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. We got to get him fighting Tom Aspinall maybe this summer.
Good. Yeah, that's the fight everybody wants to see, even me. And because young guy versus like GOAT and real like heavyweight. So I feel like it's gonna be hard to throw the Jon Jones.
Rashad Evans offered a thoughtful take on the situation, emphasizing respect for Jones's incredible career achievements. He reflected on the psychological pressure that comes with high-stakes matchups, especially for a fighter with so much at stake. While Evans acknowledged Aspinall's impressive rise and expressed hope that the fight would eventually be made, he also showed understanding for Jones's hesitance. He felt it was reasonable for Jones to weigh whether risking his legacy on one more battle was truly worth the gamble.
All right, last thing. Jon Jones, Tom Aspinall, who you got?
I got Jon Jones. I think Tom Aspinall is a man, but I feel like, Jon Jones is just another level. He can do it in so many different ways with his striking, with his grappling, and I feel like, being in a situation, coming in a fight where he's kind of being pushed into this one, I feel.
Tom's a big boy.
Yeah, but I feel like with John's a big boy too, and Jon knows how to fight like a big boy.
Right.
One thing I feel like what Tom does really well is he moves so well, and I feel like that may give Jon a little bit of trouble, but I feel like Jon is smart enough to figure it out.
Georges St-Pierre offered a grounded perspective on the realities of aging in sports. While he acknowledged Jones as one of the greatest fighters ever, GSP reminded fans that no athlete can completely escape the effects of time. He pointed out that Aspinall's youth and physical prime pose a serious challenge, particularly if Jones isn't at his absolute best. However, GSP also believed that with the right motivation, especially financial incentives, Jones still has the potential to put on a memorable performance and finish his career on a strong note.
I have to choose someone in his prime that I put in the Coliseum hand to hand. I think I would be Jon Jones. It's hard to deny that. However, nobody beats time, and Tom Aspinall is on a hell of a run now. So it's to see how they get a match. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. As a fan, I want to see this fight. I would like to see this fight, but I think Tom is very hungry, and it's up to Jon to see if he still wants to do this and if the UFC can compensate him good, because I think he deserves it. So it's going to be a hell of a...
Former champion Frank Mir focused his analysis on the contrasting styles and strategies of the matchup. While he recognized Aspinall's impressive knockout power and striking skills, Mir pointed to Jones's grappling as the unpredictable factor. He suggested that Jones could control the fight by leveraging his superior positioning and technique, potentially steering clear of a striking battle. Mir believes that Jones has more to lose than gain in this fight, and considering his already legendary career, opting out of facing Aspinall wouldn't necessarily tarnish his legacy.
I think Tom might have the best chance of anybody to beat Jon right now. But that being said, I still think Jon wins the fight just because of his wrestling. I think he puts, Tom on his back and then is able to nullify his jiu-jitsu from being top position with his elbows and control. What does Jon win? Take that fight. He goes out there and beats Tom. Is it really going to make or break his career? I don't think anybody cares.
Israel Adesanya shared comparable thoughts, especially regarding control through wrestling. He noted that Aspinall's striking might lose its impact if Jones manages to control the fight on the ground. According to Adesanya, if Jones can achieve early takedowns and maintain dominant top position, he could drain Aspinall's stamina, slow the pace, and gradually wear him down. This grinding strategy could effectively counter Aspinall's aggressive, fast-paced style and allow Jones to dictate the flow of the fight.
Aspinall, so far, the way he dispatched the Russian guy, oh my God, and he's fast, but he's the same height as me, if not an inch taller, but thick. And I was like, you're a lot thicker than I would expect. And the speed, yeah, that's the thing that I'm like, okay, that's the danger. But again, grappling, he's a black belt, but Jon it's different. Yeah, but I don't know, man. They got to fight. But if they don't ever fight, we'll never know. That's because we had that with Jon and Silva. We had that with Silva and GSP. So all these fights we will never see.
Ultimately, Jon Jones could come back, face Aspinall, and demonstrate why he remains at the top of the game. But if he decides to prioritize protecting his legacy over stepping into the cage, the UFC might be forced to make a tough decision. The pressure is building, and the choice appears to be clear. Either fight or relinquish the title. What do you think about this situation? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and check out some of our other content on the screen right now.